Hello and welcome back to Living History with Ted Goldsborough, and our guest today, Christina Anderson, granddaughter of Chief Anderson, who was an instructor with the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. Christina, we're back from our break.
Yes, we are.
And I want to talk a little bit about what your great-grandfather, Iverson Anderson, was doing in Bryn Mawr. You know, well, why is he in Bryn Mawr? And you found out that he was a
coachman
for a Miss Wright's school.
Right.
And in the Historical Society, we did have some information about Miss Wright and her school. In fact, in 1988, which seems like yesterday, there was an article in the Mainline Times about Miss Wright's school with pictures and a description of who taught there. For the audience, around Bryn Mawr College, which was founded in about 1885, and it was a very good school for girls, there developed several private schools, preparatory schools, to get girls into Bryn Mawr College.
Yes.
There was Baldwin School and Shipley School, and both of them have survived. But Miss Wright's school did not, the institution didn't survive, but the building is still there. And the building is used by, by Bryn Mawr College. The building is on Roberts Road near Old Gulf Road. And for the audience, we have an image of the layout of the buildings. All right, the school existed from about 1905 to about 1936. During the Depression, it failed. But Miss Wright herself died in 1930, and we have a program from the Church of the Redeemer, an Episcopal church, of her memorial service. Her name was Eliza Mary Wright, and it tells about her being a school principal, a headmistress of a school.
Right.
So we have some images, and these two are kind of interesting because it shows the school from a directory in 1912 of what the building looked like. It was pretty impressive for a 1912 building.
Yeah, beautiful.
But it's covered with ivy, so you can't really see the stucco and stone. But Christina and I noted that there's a peak here, and they've cut back the roof on this one. But it is the same building, and today it's used as a dormitory, and I heard for graduate students at Bryn Mawr College. So it still has an educational use, and your grandfather, was a coachman for Miss Wright. We're not sure where Miss Wright lived. There is a Miss Wright who lives on Montgomery Avenue opposite, it's been demolished, but opposite the Bryn Mawr Presbyterian Church. But on the other hand, in one of the atlases, it shows a house behind that building. And so I don't know whether she lived on the campus or not. So I guess he would be taking people back and forth to the train station.
Right. I'm assuming I can go to a photograph of Iverson right now.
Good.
And
Thank you.
This well, actually, we can start with this one because I guess we kind of got
from
ahead
childhood
of ourselves. Yeah. This is an early picture of Chief Anderson.
Good.
With his mother. Iverson is not in this picture, but his mother is holding him. She's the lady. Her name was Janie Anderson with the big hair. And then this is a picture of Iverson. I believe one of his official coachman pictures there. That's what he would have looked like every day as a coachman.
Okay.
Very neat, clean. I mean, this guy looks like a movie star to me. And of course, there's Janie next to him, but that is, I had another picture of him, I don't think on this, with this same kind of outfit on. And impeccably dressed, being the chauffeur. I've seen him near a car, and I've seen him on a horse-drawn carriage. So I'm thinking maybe they started with horses and carriages and evolved into automobiles.
Okay.
Over time. And I was told, too, he was a man Friday for Miss Wright. Mm-hmm. He would do whatever. If he was a handyman, he was a fixer of every issue. Okay. So he was just kind of there all the time.
Okay. But their son, your grandfather, showed an early interest in aviation?
Yes.
What did he do to show that?
Well, from what I understand, he saw an airplane at some point. I don't know exactly when the first airplanes would have been created. Obviously,
10, 12.
Early 1900s. But he was able to see this airplane in the area, and he asked his father to show him one. And from what I understand, there were some airports in the area at the time, or beginning airports, and his father did take him to see an airplane. Okay. I don't think he rode, but I do think he saw it. Okay. And he had made up his mind as a child that was it. There was no
love at first sight.
Love at first sight. No deterring him.
Yeah.
That was the end of that.
I think they called those barnstormers.
Yes.
And these guys had these little cloth wooden airplanes, and they'd take you up for, I don't know, $10 or something. That's how they made their living. Now, he wanted a plane.
Yes.
So how did he go about buying that?
Well, he asked friends, family, local residents to help him buy this plane. I believe this was in 1922. And Miss Wright actually was the one that took him over the top with the donation. I believe the donation was either $1,000 or $3,000. I honestly can't remember, but it was
a considerable sum.
Several hundred, if not thousands of dollars to help him get this plane because he couldn't raise the money. And the story I was told was that as a child, Grandpa would help his father at the school, and Miss Wright would give my grandfather pocket money allowance as a kid. And when it came time to buy the airplane, my grandfather had over years had not spent one penny of that money that Miss Wright gave him. And she said, why, Al, did you not spend, or Charles, I don't know what he's going as a child, at the time did you not spend this money? He said, because I wanted to save it for my airplane. And from what I was told, that at that point, she said, I'm going to just buy the airplane. How much do you need?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And then he flew people down to Atlantic City or from Philadelphia?
Yeah, he did, and that's when we get into his life of learning to fly, and the racism and all that. That's how that whole thing started.
Now, before we quit, we have a few minutes left here. Why are you here now in Bryn Mawr?
Well, I'm here now because I'm working with Bryn Mawr College in conjunction with the United States Post Office, because this year, 2014, Chief Anderson is going to be the face of the new 2-ounce stamp. And on March the 13th of this year, 2014, we're having the unveiling ceremony of his stamp at Goodart Hall on the campus of Bryn Mawr College. And for several reasons we talked about earlier, why not Bryn Mawr College?
Christina, you are executive director of a foundation, and I wonder if you could tell us about that.
Yes. In 2012, I created the C. Alfred Chief Anderson Legacy Foundation to really honor the legacy of Chief Anderson and the Tuskegee Airmen, to share their amazing story with the world. It's absolutely an inspiring story for everyone of all generations to hear, especially Grandpa's story, Chief Anderson's story. And like I said, I started in 2012. We are working on a documentary about his life, working on a biography, also taking some of his artifacts around to different schools, showing kids, showing them our pieces of the documentary, filming them, talking about, after they hear about Chief Anderson, what his story meant to them. So it has really been a great success with the foundation, and we are definitely seeking support for this cause. It's obviously a charitable nonprofit, And we will show at the end of this segment ways to help support this this worthy cause, to keep his story going, and for me to continue to share his story with the world, like what I'm doing with you now.
Can you tell me about Tuskegee and his relationship to, how did he get to Tuskegee? What did he do there?
That's a whole nother hour. Okay, I don't know how to say that in.
We have a couple minutes left.
Yeah. Oh boy.
What did he do between 1922 buying the airplane and 1938 or 39 down in Alabama?
Well, I guess to put it in a nutshell, he taught himself how to fly, found a German immigrant to help him get his transport license, ultimately, which allowed him to started instructing at Howard University and got recruited by Tuskegee University to Howard. Worked with the civilian pilot training program at Tuskegee. Eleanor Roosevelt shows up for a visit, flies her, which then she goes back to her then husband, President of the United States, and says, wow, these African Americans can fly. Tuskegee Airmen program started. And of course, Anderson is then Chief Anderson. Chief Flying Instructor.
General Beckton had mentioned when we interviewed him that about in the 1920s, like 1925, the Army issued a whole bunch of statements that blacks couldn't be taught, they couldn't be leaders,
Correct.
They didn't care, they didn't have incentive.
Right.
So unfortunately, during that time, from like 1925 to 1941, it was a rough time for blacks in the military because of this edict from the Army that put down blacks. Mm-hmm. So maybe that Eleanor Roosevelt's coming helped. It helped blacks.
It did. I think, and I have a quote of Grandpa saying this in my documentary. She said to him, "I heard blacks couldn't fly, but I see they're flying all around here."
Yeah.
And he says, "Of course we can fly. What do you think we have all these airplanes for? I'm a double licensed pilot."
Yeah.
Through the CAA, Civil Aeronautics Administration at the time, go up on a flight with me.
Good. And she did.
She said, okay. And she was convinced at that point, only, and they became the Red Tails. They were, they guarded bombers.
Escorted.
They were bomber escorts.
Yeah.
And it really helped with decreasing the loss of our bombers during the war.
Christina, it's been great having you here, and I thank you very much for joining us coming up from Georgia, and I wish you success March 13th, and there'll be some information on the screen if you wish to contribute. This is Ted Goldsboro with Living History, signing off with Christina Anderson.